All right, I'm here. Give me a moment. I'm catching a couple of things real quick. Getting the course for one thing. I thought I did. Now my machine just locked up. Just what I needed. So I don't know if y'all hear me or not. Okay. So, trying to get to the class in Cisco. And over here. Let's see which chapter we're on this week. Sorry about this. I was working on other stuff right there. And we're on module 18 this week. Just one module. Good. So let me get to that. And 18 is understanding defense. And okay, good enough. All right, back to collaborate. All right. It was in and out as I was trying to connect and as I turned things on. So you should all hear me now. Can you hear me, Brittany? Okay. So let me jot down who's here real quickly, and I forgot my little pads. And then we'll get started. It's gotten a little busier in the last week, I guess. So things have been a little crazy. All right, first one. Registration started yesterday for summer semester. I sent out, I posted an announcement. I'm pretty sure it went out as an email also. Hold on one second. I got to respond to this one. Somebody was pricing some training equipment for us, one of the other instructors, and is made in Italy, and the company selling it's in Italy, apparently not Italy, in India, and the company's located in India, and she emailed them asking them for the price on it, and somehow they decided we're located in Italy, but they wrote her back in English and everything, but said that we're in Italy. And so another guy wrote, the newest instructor wrote and said he'd volunteer to go pick up the stuff from Italy, and I was writing back and went, no, I'm claiming seniority. If the school will pay travel for it, I'll go over there and pick it up. And I said, but maybe the school will pay a team of us to go pick up this stuff. So I just had to jump in on that one real quick. So we'll see. On it. I've never been to Italy. I'd like to go to Italy. Of course, the problem is we couldn't go to Italy right now anyway for at least the next so many weeks because they just went in lockdown again yesterday. And I'm not sure I'd really want to be flying right now because I'm actually scheduled to go to Salt Lake City this summer for Kiwanis for international conference, and my intention all along has been for the last 2 years, once they said, is that I intend to drive out there because I like driving. I get to see more because if I fly, I don't see as much, and I've really never been enthused on being crammed in planes, but I have flown plenty because I flew to Paris 4 years ago for convention for Kiwanis. And that was neat. I had a fun time there. It was actually at Bastille Day. I was there, so I watched the parade and all kinds of stuff while I was there. And Paris was a neat city. And Newark Airport is not fun sitting in through the night. I figured that one out. Matter of fact, they wouldn't even let me sit up in the regular area until after midnight. When I'd gotten in before midnight, my plane didn't take off till 7 o'clock the next morning or something, 6:30 the next morning. And I had to wait till midnight before I could walk back into the secured area. And that was a little scary up there in the unsecured area. I really thought that there was a drug bust happening where I was sitting. And I moved on to another spot. And then this, I guess, homeless guy came in and laid down on the bench beside me. And I tried to find another bench to move to, sitting in the lobby of the airport. Interesting. So I have flown all over the U.S. Back in the early 90s, I was flying about once a month all over the U.S. when I was a national representative for the USJCs for their shooting education program, and that was as a volunteer. I was teaching full-time at college then, actually doing way more. And on the weekends, they'd fly me, or at least one weekend a month, they'd fly me somewhere in the country to promote the program. And sometimes I got to drive, but there was a lot of flying, and I've done a fair amount since. But Italy's always looked interesting to go see. I'd love to go see Rome and the Vatican, and I'd like to see some of the other Roman ruins and all kinds of other stuff all around. So Venice would be interesting to see, and so on. So maybe I'll get there. Actually, there's a guy teaching here at the college that's from Belgium, and he's told me I need to go over there one summer with him and visit his parents and stuff with him, and he'd take me all around the continent for a few weeks. And so that I'd like to do, but who knows. So if I get a chance, I will. Right now, obviously, we can't do that, and he's made the comment that he can't go over there right now anyway, because if you go to Belgium, their rules, you can only see 2 people there. So he wouldn't get to hardly see anybody if he went over there, so it didn't make much sense. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully things get back normal soon. So registration started this week. It doesn't end this week, although the calendar says that it's this week. From the 15th through the 19th. Ireland would be another place I'd love to go to. I wished I could go to Scotland this year, but this is not, you can't really do the travel because I've got a niece going to college in Scotland last year and this year. She's an exchange student over there, and I'd love to go over there right now and visit her and let her tour me around Scotland and stuff. But there's no way you can get to Scotland right now, realistically. And I know when she went back over there, I don't know if she came back at Christmas or not. I know when she went over beginning of the school year, she had to quarantine for 2 weeks before she could even go out and see people over there. That when she had said she was going to go over there, that was my hope, to go over there. So registration's going on. I can advise any of you that are CIST students in any of our 4 programs, degree diploma programs, or any of the TCCs. You've also got out there, you've got pathways that is sitting in course documents. As far as I know, I've got it in course documents in your class. It should be, because I thought I put it in all of the classes. Let me just double check that real quick. Yes, it is there. So if you will send me an email, I'll double check that for you, Brittany, and have you applied for graduation. You need to apply for graduation from it. Okay. And I can double check that you actually do have all the classes you need. That I can advise y'all, I can register you. You can register yourself. You can look at the pathways and see what courses you should be taking summer semester in your program. It's everything that's listed for summer semester on there. We do have offered, because we actually use that document to see what we're offering each semester. There is a pathways for each of the 4 programs, and for full-time, part-time, or being part-time, and for degree or diploma. Particularly since y'all are in a security class, most of you are probably in cybersecurity. You in cybersecurity need to really pay attention on this of either get with Mr. Spurlock or me. And that's a very specificness on it. The rest of y'all, if you're in the other programs, y'all can really get with whichever one of the CIST full-time instructors to get information. But for cyber, if you get with him or me, or follow exactly what it says on pathways, and don't choose electives differently than what we have down there. When you finish the cybersecurity degree or diploma, you will also get the networking degree or diploma. And actually, if you finish the degree on those and you've taken psychology, like we also recommend you do, you'll also get the diploma along with the degree and any other TCCs you qualify for. So y'all can get a pile of papers. So do follow our advice on it, because when we laid out the pathways, we realized you can actually do the networking at the same time as the degree as the cybersecurity without taking any extra courses. Okay. As long as you take exactly what we tell you to take for electives. So if you're a cybersecurity student, I'd strongly encourage you to check with him or me for advice on what you should take, or tell us, here's what you're wanting to take, and is that fit appropriately? And then you can either register yourself after we tell you, yeah, these are what you should take, or you can have us register you, and we'll be glad to register you. The only thing we'll need at that point for you, and in that case, Brittany, you definitely want to go ahead and apply for the certificate for the for the TCC and get it, and then get the rest of the courses to finish the degree off on it. Okay. That actually you'll get the piece of paper at that point, but you'll still be enrolled, and you just need to change over to the degree, which if that's finishing this semester, you can go ahead and get that change made. And then It also benefits us as instructors because they count the number of graduates we have each year as part of our evaluation and as part of the school's funding. And we would get to count you as a graduate from there. And then when you finish the degree, we get to count you as a graduate again. The rest of you, if you don't do them till the end, we only get to count 2 each year on each one of you. But if you finish one earlier and you apply for it and get it, and you finish a TCC 1 year and you finish the degree diploma the next year, whatever, we get an extra credit on it. So, which is nice for us. Not that we're hurting on that at all or anything, but it makes us look better on it because we actually exceed the numbers on it. Nicholas, if you are in the cybersecurity program and you take the correct courses for the electives in cybersecurity, which for the where it has you taking in the degree, I believe it's 3 networking courses, and then there's an elective in there, if I'm remembering right, that if you've done the Cisco courses for the networking courses, and actually now in the degree you'd have to do, we'd recommend you do the Unix one because they dropped one of the Cisco courses. There's only 3 now instead of 4. But if you did the 4, that's fine. They count just fine on that. So they just changed that last December, a year ago, December. That, and then I believe it's 1135. You got to take it as operating system. That we get that as the operating system one, and that it counts as your elective. If you take those that we're saying, and you're doing the cyber, that those fit together. Now, if you're in the networking program and you're trying to pick up cyber also, beyond what this networking program has, cyber actually has some more stuff to it, and you have to take some more things to get the cyber additionally. So send me an email, Nicholas, and tell me you'd be curious on what additionally you need to finish the cyber degree, along with that you only need, and for me to verify that you only need to get 2453 to get your networking degree finished. Okay? Because in DegreeWorks, we can run what ifs and see how everything you've got fits into another degree or diploma, whatever out there. Okay. Any other questions on all of that? So, but like I say, the registration, it stays open after this, but ideally we'd love for you to register as soon as possible this week, to register this week. Now, if you're taking some gen ed classes, most of them stay available the whole time, but here's the warning I will give you. If you're wanting to take certain ones like music appreciation, that one fills up quickly, and that's got to be, you got to register for that real quickly. If that's what you want to take summer, I would strongly encourage you to get it registered today. So let me know on that one. And that I can advise y'all accordingly. But the other part is somewhere later when we get into April, on later part of it, we will be looking at canceling classes that don't have enough enrollment. And if it's a class you need and you hadn't registered for it, it might not have enough people, and we'd have to, and that we would cancel it. And then find out that you needed it, and that if you had registered for it, we would have been aware, because we actually do look at who's registered for it and what they need. Okay. So, and like the 2602, I believe it is only offered in the summer. So those of you that are in security probably all need to take that one this summer. Okay. If there was anybody in here in web, which wouldn't be, because web doesn't have electives separate. I think they get one in degree, but nothing in diploma. they have a course that we only offer in the summer. So that's the stuff on that one. Now, we're continuing on through today. This week we're on chapter 18, module 18. We'll have a session next week. So this time next week we'll have another collaborate session. The following week is spring break, and we will not have a collaborate session that week. For that matter, there won't be a discussion. There'll actually be a discussion starts next Monday that will go through for 2 weeks. That'll cover next week and the week of spring break. So we will not have a session on March the 30th. So that'll be that one, okay? But March the 23rd, next Tuesday, we will have a session. But March the 30th be spring break, and I do not intend to be really doing anything with school that week, although I may check email a time or two, but I'm intending to take leave for most of that week. And then the other part is that Tuesday morning, I will take my second vaccine. And that's the one that a lot of people say kicks them. A lot of other people say it didn't give me any big problems. So I'll wait and see. So it may not be much of a vacation that week. I don't know. Depends on how that reacts with me that day. I've got a couple of friends that are going to be checking in on me. So there's where we're off to. So here in chapter 18, module 18, that we're looking at the defense, that they're calling it defense in depth. And the first thing they talk about is that they go through and talk about the assets, vulnerabilities, and threats. And then they talk about security onion and security artichoke. This security onion is not where we've talked about the program of security onion. This is just a way that goes way on back that they've always said about how you secure your stuff, and that there's this security onion approach and there's a security artichoke approach. And they're both basically the same thing, just a little bit different concept to them. And what they're operating off of is setting up security similar to an onion or an artichoke. I don't know much about artichokes, so that one's not quite as good for me. But the first thing you talk about is assets, vulnerabilities, and threats. And it's been a section on each of those. Assets are anything that is of value to the organization that we must protect. So all of our different things, we've got lots of assets out there. So our servers, our computers, any of our devices and all of that are all assets to us. And the biggest one, as they mention, is our data. And we want to make sure that's protected. And that's the one I also emphasize that you make sure you back up and keep at an off-site location so that if anything happens to your organization. When I worked for the Sea Island Company at the Cloister Hotel, they're on the coast of Georgia. It's real swanky and expensive, and now you can't even just drive out there. You could back when I worked for it. Now you got to go through a gate to get onto the island. They have cottages on that island, and a lot of them are huge houses, and they all cost $1 million or more, or multi-million dollars. But they're cottages. One of my jobs was as the system operator in the evening. Was when I left the organization, the last thing I did before I left each night was I ran a backup of the whole computer system, and then I took that backup with me and took it to another location further down the island and left it there. Actually, it was the gas station, and there was a reason. The gas station, they left open until, I think it stayed open all night so we could get to the backups and leave them in there. You'd think that was a dangerous location because of the fire hazard or whatever, but it was a separate spot from the hotel and not likely both. If there'd been a hurricane coming in and we had been told to evacuate while I was working, I was not to leave the backup at the gas station, the backup was to go and stay with me until I could come back to the island. So if I had to flee inland, that backup was to stay with me the whole time to wherever I went to, and then return there and for us to get back operational again. So keep those in mind. I have at times kept a backup of my computer system sitting in the office here at school as a separate location. I've got other ways of keeping in different locations also. So that's what the assets are. So they go through and talk a little bit about identifying them. Then they talk about the vulnerabilities. And the vulnerabilities is the weaknesses in our stuff that could be exploited by a threat actor. So any weakness in the design that could be exploited is there. So there are lots of vulnerabilities out there people know about and that can be exploited. And actually in the news yesterday was where Microsoft has reported that where they learned of a 0-day item vulnerability in Exchange server that they went to fix. Well, they didn't release out about that vulnerability at that point, but they went to developing the fix and a patch for it. And as they got the patch developed, but before they released the patch, they actually released it out to some different organizations, including antivirus companies, so that they can make sure their system's not going to block the patch and to protect on it. Well, they're all sworn to confidentiality. Well, apparently there was a major hole in Exchange that they reported to these places, and somebody apparently released it to the hackers, and 2 weeks before the patch went out, the hackers started taking advantage of it that they hadn't discovered that hole before. So that's a vulnerability there when that hole was sitting out there in Windows 10, but it hadn't been fixed on it. Okay, and Microsoft's trying to figure out who did it. From what I heard last night, there's accusations being that Avast may have released it or McAfee may have released that information to some other people that shouldn't have been released to. So there's a big fight about that one right now. So we'll see what all happens on that. So that's your vulnerabilities. Threats is any potential threat to an asset. So the vulnerability is the weakness in it that somebody could attack. The threat is any potential danger to it of what could happen to it. So a threat is that a hacker could break into our system. A vulnerability is where we've got a weakness in the system and that they can get in. Okay, so those are different. The threat is that they could be hitting it, that is a danger to it. But the vulnerability is where there's a weakness and something could go from that. Okay, so they go through and show you how to identify those different ones on it. They mention about e-banking, that there could be an internal system compromise as far as threats. There could be an insider attack on the system. The data center could be destroyed. That could be fire, hurricane, like I just mentioned on the hotel, etc. Stolen customer data, that is a threat, because if the data is stolen, it could be sold and misused. Phony transactions is a threat, and that would come through phishing emails and stuff. And then data input errors is a threat too, because if the clerk entering in the amount of a deposit accidentally enters 100,000 instead of $1,000 deposit, that, and actually it sounds like there may be this type thing out there right now in terms of the stimulus checks, that the banks are having a fit about them and about whether people got given money that they shouldn't have yet or whatever. But then that person sees that that's in there and could withdraw way too much money. So that's a threat there. But it would also be a vulnerability, because there would be a vulnerability that there could be an overdraw on it. So be aware of your threats on it. So then they talk about their defense further method on it, and that you're setting up your firewalls where they fit into it. And they talk about the different type routers right there where the firewall would fit on it. So they do a short discussion on that. But then they talk about the security onion. And what it says is that we look at things of that you've got layers that things are going through trying to block people from ever attacking. So it's like a real onion. And that when you peel back a layer of the onion, you get to the next layer. And then you can peel back the layer of the onion to get to another layer, and that you've got the center of the onion down in there that you ultimately get down to. But this is not the security onion suite of security tools. This is just a broad look overview of how you want to defend your stuff from security problems, okay? And that you set up all types of things in there, and it's peeling it back. So if they get through this one layer, they got through the firewall, then you may have something behind the firewall that then protects further. For instance, they show the IPS, the intrusion protection system. And then you may have content filtering that goes a little bit further on that. And then that you've got your AAA going, and that you're authorizing and authenticating your users and accounting, recording information about who it is gotten on. And then they got into the actual device, and you've hardened the device. You don't just have the device sitting there, that you've set up its firewall and its protections on it. And so they're seeing it as that these just peel off and get you further in till you finally get down to the asset, but that you don't just go through one thing to get in there. It's not an Apple system, that there's only one layer of peeling and you're in the apple. There's multiple layers to get down to the assets. So that's the security onion. The security artichoke does similar, except for it's using like an artichoke on it, and it's not entire layers wrapping everything, but we've got everything all in there together, and there's multiple ways to get things, and so we protect them in all types of ways, but nothing's trying to do its own complete coverage on it. So that's the idea of the artichoke versus the onion, and the artichoke's the newer one on it. So that instead of just being a single one thing at a time to get in, that you've got multiple things and you got to peel away all those petals, I guess they're called on artichoke. Again, I'm not an artichoke eater and don't use, so the onion makes more sense to me, although I don't eat raw onions either. But I understand the onion a little bit better than the artichoke. But the artichoke's got all those little peelings in that you peel one, and then it might be 2 or 3 different petals under it, and you could get through one, but you got to get through the other couple of them associated to the side also. So let me jump back here where I can see what y'all been commenting. And so on it. So let me roll back up. I missed a little. Okay. So the onion one is much more of complete layers. The artichoke one is various petal layers where it doesn't cover everything but covers parts, and that you got to get through all the different parts and find the right parts getting through. So like on the example I was giving you, Microsoft then came out with a patch to it, but now they're trying to figure out how in the world will people got a hold of it before they got the patch out there. Then as far as Nicholas's question is there, how many layers of security will make a threat actor consider you not worth the time to attack? That will depend on what it is they're trying to get, the value of the asset. Okay. The more valuable the asset, the more layers they'll go through. Somebody trying to kill the president of the United States will be willing to take on a number more of Secret Service agents killing them to get to the president, to kill the president of the United States, than if somebody decided they wanted to kill me. If I had a security guard with me, and I actually did one time when I ran a BB gun match, that they posted a security guard with me. He was this big old guy, and they posted him with me because we had a problem one year with me. That one of the shooters' dads hit me and threatened to really beat me up, and so they put this big old guy, his name was Bear, to protect me. Well, if the guy blocked him on it, that was all that was going to be needed to block the guy from attacking me. Whereas if I was president of the United States, or I delivered a sermon Sunday night and was talking something about on stuff, and when the guy said, well, you should have been, that was about being able to empower, ordering people to do stuff or whatever. And they said, you should have been dictator of the United States. Well, I don't think I would be either one in the first place. But they'd be willing to do more to get me if I was president than if I'm just instructor of this class. So it depends on what the value of the payload, of how many layers and how many different things you really need there protecting it. And the more value it is, and so that's an important part of identifying your assets. Know what's the cost of losing them, okay? And that's how much you want to spend on the protection, because it's just like a house. You can lock your house up, and in some cases, people don't lock the house up very well, as I quite often use as examples. People sleep quite happily in the summer in a lot of houses, a lot of places, with just a screen door latch on the screen door at the front of the house during the night, and sleep perfectly fine and feel perfectly safe in there, and they lock the door. And all it takes is somebody to yank that screen door and then walk in. There's others of us that close the inside physical door, lock the handle, and then some put the deadbolt on too, and that I actually locked the deadbolt also on my house. I have been in some people's houses that have several deadbolts on their doors. Because it depends on what they consider the danger to them and what else they've got in the house and how much they value themselves. Could be putting smart locks on there, and we've seen the issue come up with those in the last year of where they've been hacked sometimes. And so even if you were using a smart lock, there are some people that would turn around and put a deadbolt with it also. It's just like on car. There's times when I have nothing in my car in the middle of the summer that I may leave the windows down in the car. I'm not one that uses air conditioning a lot in the car in the first place, but leave the windows down on the car, park someplace that seems like a relatively safe place to park, leave the windows down, and I'll lock the doors. I've had people go, what in the world do you do that for? I said, well, it's sort of like latching the screen door on the house. There's plenty of people that go to steal a car or break in a car, walk up to the car. They don't even notice the windows down. They just try the door latch. It doesn't work, so they walk on to the next car. And they could have just reached in, okay? And gotten whatever they wanted to get. But there was nothing laying in there, so that's why I left it like that. And that I'm going to stay cooler, but I'm not real worried on it. I would not leave the windows down, and the keys in the ignition, and lock the doors and think that would secure the car. That's the first thing, is taking the keys out of the ignition, because if you read police reports on stolen cars, it is a huge percentage of stolen cars are stolen because the keys were in the ignition. Well, that's a simple enough protection that we do, we take the key out of the ignition. And then we can lock the doors, roll up the windows, and so on. If we got an alarm system, we can activate the alarm system. So be aware of all of that. And that can be an issue also, Nicholas, depending on what you put up as your deterrence on the whole thing, that somebody may have thought that you weren't something, that they just tried to check on to get into you and thinking they might get something there. But then when you got a lot, they see you got a lot of protection and go, wait a minute, they got something more valuable in there than what I thought. and maybe make them more determined to get in. So that's the big things on it. Realize what all your assets are. Know what the values of them are. Know your vulnerability on it. Where's the weaknesses? Because if you know the weaknesses, that's where you want to protect on it. And obviously, like a house, we can make a house completely protected, safe from anybody breaking in. But how would we ever get into the house or out of the house if we completely brick it up 100%? Then this issue is we can't get in there to get anything or get out of it. So there's always, you're going to have some little weakness to it somewhere, but it's knowing what your weakness is and then protecting around on that one. So people that, and generally keep in mind also that the people doing it, now in the terms of breaking into computer systems, they are very intelligent people generally. But there's a lot of times though, they're ones breaking in computers, hacking them, are just like regular criminals. They go for the easiest fruit, the low-hanging fruit. If it's not low-hanging fruit, even though they know there's some big things in there, they don't go with that because it's not worth their time to break into it and to get whatever it is. So it's the value to them and the value to you. So keep all of those in mind on it. That's what this chapter really has covered on you. And this week we only had one chapter. And like I say, next week we will have session for next week. And then the following week we will not have a session because we will on spring break. Any questions for me? And that's exactly on it, Kelly. That's risk acceptance. And that's an issue that insurance is always asking you also of, if you're buying insurance on stuff, how much are you willing to accept of the risk? And that the more risk acceptance you have, the less they charge you for the part they accept on it. If there's not any questions, I'm going to wrap it up, let y'all go, and we'll stop on this one. But we've run almost 45 minutes. So we've had a pretty good size session today. I will try to get these recordings out there tonight. I am a little bit, actually your class, I'm completely caught up on grading through yesterday. Actually, I was caught up on Sunday. I have not graded anything that was due yesterday yet. So I do still have all of that and anything that was turned in after Sunday. I did not do any grading yesterday. And I got a few other things to work on. Thursday, I'm speaking to the North Carolina Computer Instructors Association, doing 2 seminars for them that I noted also in a message out there to y'all at 9 o'clock in the morning and at 3:15 in the afternoon. So Thursday's going to be rather busy for me. The first session will be on number systems. And actually it'll be just like the one I did last fall for the CompTIA Instructors Network, or CIN, C-I-N. And then the one in the afternoon, which was session 2 on that of the 4 I did back then in September or October. I don't remember which month it was. Did online. This is online also. Normally I go to North Carolina for a week right now at this time of the year. Actually, last year I was in North Carolina at this conference last week. When I left there, everything was shutting down. But that was one of the last live conferences you could actually go to. And I sat up there for that Cisco all day that Tuesday, and then the end of that week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, attended their computer conference for computer instructors in North Carolina. Basically, although there's a few of us that come from some other states, the Cisco one's open to North Carolina, Georgia, South Carolina, Tennessee, I think Alabama, although there's not many that come from out of North Carolina, but I was attending it and then found out about the second conference that followed it, and I've been attending it since. I'm actually a member of the North Carolina Computer Instructors Association. Notice the initials on that. It's the North Carolina CIA, which I think is rather cute of a name. So I'm a member of the CIA. So if I tell you I can't tell you anything, I got a reason I can tell you. I can't tell you anything. So I'm speaking to them that morning on that, on number systems and conversions. That afternoon, I'm doing a presentation like I did in the fall, my session 3 in the fall, that is on subnetting and about how to cover subnetting. Which actually that worked out real well this week, because in the Cisco class, the 2451 class, that's what I'm actually teaching tomorrow. And I actually know people that work with CIA. I grew up with people, friends of mine, that their parents worked for the CIA. So I've actually got CIA connections in there. I've talked with people before that were connected to it, and they go, whoa, wait a minute. You didn't tell me you worked for us. And I went, no, I don't. They said, but you know the terminology. I said, yeah, I grew up with the terminology. So that's the way it works. So it's fun. And then I'll get to do that. Hopefully next year they'll have the conference back live again, and then I'll be able to go to it live in North Carolina next year. This is always a good conference. And I've spoken at it several years. I didn't speak last year, but I've spoken several other years to it. They like me to come speak also. So that's nice. So I will see y'all next Tuesday at the same time. And then we'll take a break for a week. So hopefully I can get grading done. I was hoping to work on it some this morning, but that hasn't happened yet. And it's 10 till 2 o'clock. And I'm hoping I can still get doing some grading later today. And I got the grade discussions too. And y'all see what my Thursday looks like already. So y'all have a good week. Stay safe, stay dry. We've had a bunch of rain. There's flooding all around already. Here at the school, the front pond that shouldn't be a pond, is filled. The ball field, that's supposed to be a baseball field, softball field, is right now we can use it for water polo. So y'all stay dry and stay safe.